right, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to our class today. All right, so I'm making the recording and we are starting now. Okay, great. So we'll just do quick recap, right? Quick recap on previous class. We talked about tags. Of course, we did a refresher on tags, opening tags, closing, opening self-closing tags and non-self-closing tags. Talked about elements, attributes, what attributes are. So we demonstrated that with an anchor tag here. So also talked about that if you don't have a ready URL to put in your hyperlink reference in your anchor tag, you can use an hash. So an hash actually is void. That link goes nowhere when somebody clicks. Okay, so talked about image, how you could embed an image or link an image to your website or impute an image to your website. We talked about the importance of the alt, that's alternative text attributes, right? So it's actually very important for accessibility. It's important for search engine optimization. That's for search engines to be able to crawl your website to at least the first page, right? That's what every client looks for. Talked about title. Title shows a tooltip where on hovering on the image, somebody can be able to have more like a description of what that image is. So you talked about text formatting, talked about block quotes, what it does. Block quote just it shows that that part of text was taken from somewhere, right? Maybe there's another author. You are just trying to demonstrate that, oh, this block of text was lifted from somewhere, and probably you reference the author, right? Talked about bold. Yeah, that's what the B tag does. I is for italics. Talked about U, that U underlines, that's the U tag, while the sup is for superscripts, right? We talked about EM is for emphasis. I is for italics, strong, for to make strong emphasis. However, what you're going to see on the web page is going to be an emboldened text. Yeah, it's talked about sub, SUB, that stands for subscript. And of course, as the name implies, subscripts. It actually brings the text below the normal level of indentation. All right, talked about del tag. That del tag will give a cross, strike through on the text to which it is applied. We talked about span. That's the purpose of span is an inline tag, right? Is an inline element when it is used. It's actually an inline element. And what span helps us to do is that it helps us to apply a particular set of style to a portion of text in a paragraph, right? Or any other tag that outputs a text. So you can use span in a heading, you can use span within a paragraph, you can use span within any other tag that will definitely display a text. But the function of the span is to be able to give a different styling to a select portion of text. Okay, so talked about anchor tag. Yeah. So inline versus block level elements, we described that block level elements, they are actually going to take the width of its parent container, while the inline element will just take as much width as its content, right? And of course, we demonstrated that, gave examples of inline and block level elements to be span, anchor, inputs, and others, which you can actually check out W3 Schools for more resources. We talked about block level elements, and these are the examples we gave: div, paragraph, unordered list, ordered list, and the rest. So today we would move to talk about multimedia. So working with, of course, we've talked about images. Images are part of multimedia. Images are multimedia. So next we want to look at is audio, right? Audio. So let's just say multimedia. Let's give the heading. So let's say working with multimedia, right? So from there, we have audio, right? So how to embed an audio file. So one of the things we would need, audio is non-self-closing, meaning that it has a pair. So we are going to we'll need an audio file to work with. So we need an audio file. So, but let's go online and just download. I don't have an audio file, but I just want to search for, let's just say free audio download, right? So let's check that out. So let's go to Pixabay, right? Just go and download a free MP3 or whatever format. So let's go for this first one. Okay, let me even listen to how it sounds. Okay, so let's not sure the one I want to use, but I think I'd go with, let me go with this first one. It's quite short, 1 minute 50 seconds. Okay, so I just want to download. Okay, so okay, so it has downloaded already. So I have it here, Creative Technology Show Reel at my top right here, Creative Technology Show Reel.mp3. All right, so I can bring that into my VS Code so that I can work with it. So how do we bring that in? So let's just minimize and bring my Finder side by side so that I can look for it, download. Under downloads, I'm gonna have it Creative Tech. But what I want to do, I want to rename it because that name seems too long. So I can either rename it on my okay, so but let me just bring it straight to my VS Code first. So you just drag and drop, like I said. If you're using phone, of course, in the previous video, I had demonstrated how to input an external file or to upload a file, right? If you're using replate.com, yeah. So if you're using replate.com, to your top left, to your bottom left rather, bottom left, you're going to see a sign before your run button. You see a sign that looks like a folder structure. So you click on that. When you click on that, you're going to see an option to upload file. So you just make use of that option. So this is an audio file. What we want to do is to say rename. I just need it to be something short. Let's just say music.mp3. Just need it to be something short. So you can download yours equally. Just Google and you just see free audios to download, something short, right? Okay. So we have an audio element here. So how do we bring in the file? So we have source, right? And source actually self-closing, right? So inside source, we are going to have src, and the src is actually going to be the directory to where we have, or the paths, can call it paths to where the audio file is located. So don't forget // as always is going to list out all the files that you have in your current working directory or in your folder. So just click on music.mp3 and you've got that. So when you have that, you're going to go here and say this audio file. So you can say this audio file is not supported. This audio file is not supported by your browser. Right? So what does this mean? It's not supported by your browser. So there are some audio files, and we are going to have type here, right? So when we have source src equals to /music.mp3, I'm going to have type. So to tell the browser what type of file it is, so the type is audio / and the extension is mp3, right? So it's an mp3 file, is an audio file which has the mp3 file extension, and this is actually the path to where the audio file is found using our source element or source tag, right? Then below we have this audio file is not supported by your browser. So why do we have this? So we have this as a fallback. So line 121 is a fallback. You can call it a fallback. So if just in case this, let's say your website that you are building is open, of course it will be open on different browsers, right? So there might be some browsers that does not support maybe the audio formats of the file that you are appending here for your audio. So if that's the case, it's going to render this line 121 to say, oh, this audio file is not supported by your browser. So why do we have this again? Is because if it is not supported by your browser, then it means that nothing will show on this line, nothing will show on the browser. And someone might as well feel that, oh, there is nothing there. However, or remember that there was something there, you had typed in something there. So if you do not put this fallback text to say this audio file is not supported by your browser, it's just going to be empty. At that point, it will be empty, and the user will not know that he's actually supposed to expect an audio file, right? So that's why you have to, this line is actually important to tell the user, is an information to the user, telling him that, oh, this file is not supported, this audio file is actually not supported by your browser. So let's check it out. So before we check it out, it's not going to show, just to tell you ahead of time, and we'll visit it to know why it wouldn't show. Right, so let's scroll down. So as much as you can see, I cannot see any audio file. So I think what I would even like to do, I would like to put the audio file up. I would like to put, sorry, just pardon me, let me put the audio file up. I would prefer it to be up rather than being modeled in at the bottom. Just let me put it here. So you can put it anywhere, right? This is just me wanting to put it up so that I'll be able to see it in the middle of the screen. I don't want to be scrolling down to see it. Okay, so yeah, so it's actually before this text formatting that we have lorem ipsum dolor sit amet. So it's actually supposed to show around here, but it's not showing. So it's not showing because we don't have controls here. So an audio element is actually supposed to have controls. It actually has a couple of attributes that it takes in, which I'm going to demonstrate. But one of them we have is controls. So at this point, we are going to see it right. So you can see the audio file here. So at this point, you can play it. I hope you can hear the sound. Okay. So you can mute, right? That's the user now can mute now because is already on the browser, right? So the user can mute. The other option, the user can equally download here. The user can download this audio file. So yeah, so it just shows up here by default like this. Yeah. So let me see. Let me try to alter this music. And I want to see this audio file, this line 76 being displayed that says this audio file is not supported by your browser. So let me just modify this file, the name of this file. Let me just remove S just to see. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it still shows. So, but as it shows, you can't, there's no file that is recognized. There's no audio, there's no recognized audio file. So you can still see the controls, right? Because of that controls here in the tag, in this audio tag, you can still see the controls, but you can't play anything because there's no audio file attached, right? Okay. So, but had it been my browser did not support MP3, of course, you are going to see this. This will be displayed. I just wanted to find a way to see if I could make that text display. But just understand that this is really what this text does. Is actually a fallback in case the browser does not support the audio file that is being attached, right? So yeah, so this is it again. You can play and all of that. So, but there are other controls, right? The other attributes, sorry to say, the other attributes that the audio tag actually has or can accommodate, right? So we have something like autoplay. Let's look at autoplay. So after controls, let's say you have something like autoplay. So let's look at what autoplay does. So autoplay, immediately the website is loaded, it will just begin to play, right? So let's reload. Okay. Autoplay. Okay, so why is it not playing by default? Let me see. It's a Boolean. If specified, the audio will automatically begin playback as soon as it can do so. Okay, without waiting for the entire audio file to finish downloading. Okay, so I think when the website is loaded, the website tries to download the file, or more like pass, or try to buffer right? More like buffer. So yeah, let's see. Let me see something. Let's experiment. Okay, so I'm not having the expected behavior. Autoplay. Okay, so let me just
You can try Firefox, sir. Try it with Firefox.
Firefox. I'm not sure I have Firefox on my system. So but let's go ahead. Let me show you another one. We have loop, right? So loop is just when you play and it gets to the end, it will just automatically continue. So let's take it to the end here. So you can see loop is just going to automatically replay it when it gets to the end. So anytime you get here, it just automatically starts again. That's loop. So if you want it to be loopy on your website, that's fine. All right. So let's add another. Let me pause this. Okay. So let's add another one. Controls autoplay loop. Let's have muted. Okay, so muted. So you can make your audio to be muted by default. Right. So on loading, all these things happen on loading. So it is, so as you can see, just on loading, my audio just comes out muted by default. That's because I have that muted. So maybe I don't want, when a user loads my website, I don't want the audio to just play immediately. I want not play, like more like the sound, right? I don't want the sound to just come out immediately. And I need the user to take an action, to click on it, unmute, and from there be able to, hear the sound. So that's muted, right? Yeah. So I think that's really that around audio. So we'll go to video. So video is same thing, something very similar. Inside video, you have source. Okay, so you have source. Source is self-closing, remember? And it's going to have an SRC. So SRC, you're actually going to put the link to the video file. Okay. So, but let's try something. I want to just check out something. Let's just say free this music now. So let's go to where we have free video, free MP4 or free video download. Just so that we can get an MP4 video for this demonstration. So pixels.com, that's what I'm using. Just looking for a short video. I don't know. Okay, so I think I can download this. Okay, so it's downloading. I hope it's not too large. 8.2 MB. Okay. So that's the video we're going to use. Okay, so, but I also want to try, let's say we copy the link. So we have copy link address, right? So copy link address and put in your SRC. Let's check it out. Okay. So it doesn't show because it's SRC. But if it was an href, anywhere you have href, you're actually going to have that link, a URL. Okay. SRC. Audio, video, the value of these attributes is ignored when the source element is placed inside the picture element. Okay, so let's tell it that the type is, maybe we've not described the type. Let's say the type is video and it is an MP4. So let's see how this plays out. Okay, it still didn't read it. All right, so we are going to use the video we downloaded and we'll put it straight here where we have our SRC, right? So let's go. So remember, you're going to minimize, just drag and drop. Just come here and the video that was downloaded, so I can edit it and just say maybe video 1.mp4. So whatever name I want to give it, then I want to drag it, drop in my VS Code. Right? Then I can now open this up, use this X to close. Then come to the video where I'm typing on line 79 in this SRC. Let me delete this. Okay, so I can now impute the source. So it's actually video 1.mp4, right? So okay, so I think I get why that didn't show, but let's check. I'm not sure it will still show, and I'm going to explain. Okay, so this actually showed even without the controls. Okay, so it showed, right? The MP4 video showed, but what you cannot see is controls. But in the case of audio won't even show until you put in the controls. So you can take note of that difference. For audio, if you don't put control, it wouldn't even show in the first place. Nothing will show. You wouldn't know that there's an audio file that is supposed to display at that point. But for video, of course, it's going to display, but you will not see the controls until you put in the controls. Right. So this is it. Okay, so let's go to video and say controls. But before we put in controls, let's equally still put a fallback, right? Just in case the video does not play or the browser does not support this video format, right? So you can say this video file is not supported by your browser. Okay. Yeah, so that's the fallback. So video, let's give it controls. Controls. So we're giving controls to video. So let's check it out. Okay, so you can see the controls for the video. So the user can play. Okay. All right, so the user can play, can pause, play, pause. What else? This is sound, can mute, unmute, can go to full screen, right? Exit full screen. click on these three dots. The user can download, playback speed, set the playback speed, or whether he needs it in 1.25. Then picture in picture, yeah. You can just make it to be at a corner so that whatever he or she is doing, it will not interface. Right, so we can take it back. Okay. All right. Daniel, could I see your hand?
Yes, sir. This video and audio must it be downloaded, or you can choose for multimedia like save video or save audio. Must it be downloaded?
Okay, whether it can be downloaded.
So I said must it be downloaded? Can we
Is it more?
use any video or audio on our phone, on our system?
Yes, you can. You can, of course. I just did it because I don't want to just bug myself with maybe the videos I have or audio I have on my system. So I just want to download something just for the class. So in your own case, if you have some video files you want to output or play, right? So you can, if you have some existing video files, of course, you can link them. However, it's important you bring them into your project, right? So wherever they are, they might not be directly under class 1 or the title of your folder. So wherever they are on your system or on your phone, whatever, make sure you bring them, drag them to this place, your project, so that you can just easily link them from your project. So
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so you just show the controls. What else? Let me see. So you can make it autoplay. You can equally input the autoplay option. So to just play by default on load. When your website loads, it will just begin to play. But for me, this video doesn't seem too interesting for me. If you would permit me, I would like to download another video. Something like this. That's, you will know that something is happening. Yeah, so I would like to change that video. So, but you can use any video of your choice. Right. Okay, so that's downloaded. Oh, but that's quite large, 89.2 MB. Wow. So just understand that when you put videos that are too large, it can impact the speed of your website. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind. That's quite large, 80 something MB. Okay, but I'm just going to bring it in just for the purpose of this class, but just have that in mind. Okay, don't worry. Since that file is quite large, let's go ahead with this. All right, let's go ahead with this. So we have autoplay. So when you have autoplay on loading, just supposed to play. Maybe it plays at the first time. Okay. So let me see. Let me put the autoplay before the controls. Well, I don't think that's the reason why. Just thinking it has done its job. When you load the website at the first time, it just gets to autoplay. So the controls have to actually be there before that autoplay, right? Controls have to be there before the autoplay. So that would be the first thing. So the autoplay follows, and when you load your website for the very first time, it's actually going to autoplay. All right. So loop. There's loop. You can equally loop a video. So when you play and it gets to the end here, so let me shift my cursor to the end. So immediately it gets to the end, it just automatically starts again and loops. you know, keeps going to just loop by itself and start again, right? So what if you want to remove the controls? So let's say you want, maybe you have something very beautiful on your landing page and you just want it to play continuously. You don't want anybody to interfere with it. You don't want the user to interfere with it. You don't want the user to pause it. You don't want the user to download. You just disable the controls, right? So by so doing, this video will just keep playing over and over. And yet the user cannot pause, right? User cannot pause, user cannot download, user cannot increase the speed, right? So the controls are gone because in the code, I've removed the controls. So what this video will just keep playing. When it gets to the end, it will repeat. It repeats because there is loop, right? There is loop here. And yeah, there's loop basically. And I think also because of the autoplay. Okay, so let's take out the autoplay. The one thing in HTML and CSS, or HTML, is that you can actually play with, just play with your code, see how it behaves, see how it works. You can remove something to say, okay, if I remove this, what happens? If I remove this, if I add this, you can equally go to the documentation and actually read what it does, right? So as you can see, it doesn't play by default, even though the loop is there, right? So you see that autoplay attribute actually helps it that on loading, immediately the website loads, it just plays, while the loop is going to support it to continue playing. When it gets to the end, it starts again. Okay, so let's go back and put back our autoplay. Control Z, autoplay. Let's confirm that it's working. Let's reload this and see. Okay, so it seems not to be working. Let me see. So what do we have here? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let me check. Okay, my default browser is Chrome. Let me see. Controls. Yeah, place, gets to the end, starts again. Okay, then if you now take out controls, it auto plays and loops. Okay, so basically, if you have maybe because you are loading multiple times, however, I will still check that effect. So, but if you just have autoplay and loop, your video is actually supposed to play by the time it is loaded, and when it gets to the end, it's supposed to continue, playing. So no sound, remember. Okay, the video doesn't even have a sound, I guess. So if it's a video that has a sound, you mute it, right? So you wouldn't want to just put a video that plays with sound and yet the user cannot stop, cannot pause, cannot reduce the volume, so that wouldn't look nice. So you just put this muted. So when you put muted, it means that by default, as this video is loaded, it's going to be muted by default. So let's show the controls so that you are going to see. Let's bring back the controls so you would see what happens by default for this video. Let's bring back the controls. So what we are saying is that muted by default is going to mute the video, right? Muted. So as you can see, this is it. Let's reload. So you can see this is it. It's muted by default, right? So at this point, if the video had a sound, which it doesn't have, okay, let me unmute. I'm not sure it has a sound. It doesn't. So it will be muted by default. So if you don't want to enable these controls, you just want the video to play continuously by default, make sure that you add this muted attribute so that it will actually be muted when the video auto plays, right? Or loops. Yeah. So yeah. Then you can also control your video. So remember that the audio is fixed. When I say fixed, look at it. This is just how it shows. It shows something very tiny. But your video is going to come by the default video size. So you can actually size this video, right, with the width and height property. Width. So if you say width, let's say like 300 pixels. So 300 pixels. So you can see it has reduced the video to 300 pixels. And maybe you want to work with the heights. You also want to adjust the height. Heights. Okay, so heights, and say, so say you want to say maybe 400 pixels. I think we'll be increasing it, but let's just check it out. Okay, 400 pixels. So you can see the 400 pixels is actually more than the height, I guess. Okay, let's add something smaller. Let's say 200 pixels. 2. What happens? Okay, this is what happens. It brings the video smaller, but you can still see the controls here, because the controls have to show, because in our text, in our code, the controls is here. So except we disable these controls and remove it. So you see, if we disable the control, this is how it's going to look like. Just going to be moving by default, yet you cannot pause, you cannot download, you cannot mute, you cannot unmute, you can't do anything. Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
Is there a way you can disable the control without deleting it?
You said?
Is there a way that we can disable the control without backspacing, without deleting? Maybe just commenting in between the attributes, right? I think almost it's inside that object of the rectangular bracket. All those things are called attributes, right?
Yes, they are called attributes, yeah.
Okay,
you're asking if there's a way to disable it without deleting.
By putting exactly. Is it possible?
So I'm not sure, because immediately if you have controls, it means the controls will show, right? Look at it. Putting my cursor on, let me put you on controls. So you're going to see, it said if this attribute is present, right? Let me shift this up. Let me see. Let me hover over it. It says if this attribute is present, the browser will offer controls to allow the user to control audio playback, including volume, seeking, and pause/resume playback. So if it is present, that's what it's saying. So if it is absent, definitely you won't see the controls. So there is no other there's no other attribute like maybe disabled, for example, right? Say disabled, to say disabled. Let's see. I'm not sure there's an attribute like disabled. There's nothing like that. So it's either it is there or it is not there. Why I'm deleting it and I'm writing it is just because I want to show you how it works. If it is present, this is how it works. If it is absent, this is how it works. But if you have controls here, as an attribute, you cannot expect controls not to work or not to show up, or there's no other additional thing you want to write to make the controls not to show up. Immediately controls is here, controls will definitely show up. If you remove it, then controls will definitely not show up. So it's either it is in the property, it's either in the tag, in the opening tag of the video or audio, or it is not. If it is there, it will show. If it is not there, it will not show.
Yeah, I was like, if it puts comment like that's triangular and exclamation products, this if before it and after it doesn't make it disabled. That's like, oh, I mean, that's like it.
Okay,
Like,
if we
is it possible
comment,
to comment? Yeah.
okay, instead of delete it, we just want to comment.
Exactly. That was like
So
asking.
we cannot comment it here. Okay, we can't comment it here. Let me see. As you can see, you can't even write the comments. Let me see. Controls, come to the end and say dash dash. It wouldn't work. It's a syntax error, right? So that wouldn't even work.
Okay.
So so but what you can do, just in case you still want to, is still comment you want to do. So you can comment this first line 79. You can comment that first line like this. Let's take this guy out. You can comment that first line, but you have to comment everything. That's the comment that first line and probably have a replica of this without that controls. You have a replica of this, bring it here, then you remove the controls. So you can switch between line 79 and lines 80 to see what happens, right? So okay, so it brought in additional video, closing tag. We don't need this. Okay. So what you can do, there's a shortcut for commenting, but I didn't want to introduce people to that shortcut yet because I need you to master the syntax. Like, let your finger master it. It's actually very important. So if you do command and forward slash, it will automatically comment it, right? Command, okay, I'm using Mac, sorry. If you're using Windows, control forward slash will comment that line. If you even select like 2 or 3 lines of code and just do command and forward slash, you see it's gonna comment the 3 lines at once. So, but I would just prefer you do the typing, just let your fingers master the syntax. It's actually very important. So let's just do Control Z or Command Z. Yeah, but just to show you, so with these shortcuts, you can switch between 79 and 80 to see the output. So on line 79, instead of deleting this comment that we have put, you can just say command and forward slash. It will uncomment it. Then you come here and say command forward slash, so that you're going to see what controls will do. So remember, I said for comments, your compiler is definitely not going to compile this line 80. Your browser will not read this line. To skip line 80. Immediately it sees that it's a comment, right? So you can switch between these two if you like. Okay. Yeah. So I think I have a question here in the chat. He said, but my own video didn't show the controls. Joshua, I don't know what you did wrong for your video not to show the controls. But as you can see, just to demonstrate it for the last time, having line 79 on here, like working with line 79 that has controls attributes, our video will actually show controls, as you can see here. Then if you go back and instead of line 79, we want to comment out that line and activate line 80. Remember, line 80 doesn't have controls. So yeah. So if you look at it automatically your video wouldn't have controls. So just check out what you've not done right and fix that. I guess when you are done, it will actually work like mine. All right. So how do you embed like a YouTube video, for example? Just for example, maybe you're building a site and maybe your client wants you to embed his YouTube video. How do you actually embed it in your HTML code? So if that happens, because since we are talking about video, that's why we are talking about this. And not just YouTube, many other video platforms actually give you the opportunity to embed their video. So when you're embedding a video, you are not downloading the video and bringing it into, you're not downloading the video and bringing it into your project in order to display, right? You will just go to YouTube. YouTube is going to give you, if you have that video, YouTube is going to give you an embed link, just a special embed link that would work using iframe, right? iframe. I'm going to show you. I will go to YouTube to show you now, right? Using iframe. So this is actually the tag. So with this iframe, that unique tag or that unique embed link or embed HTML code, you are going to get it. So let's head straight to YouTube. Okay, to our browser, let's just say YouTube, just demonstrating. So YouTube, we actually want to go to YouTube. We want to go to WTech Hub. WTech Hub. So let's just go and get one of our videos on YouTube and embed there. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's say, okay, so let's just choose one video here. Let's embed this one. So it must not be your channel. So if you come here and say, let me see the options I have. Okay, so I think you have to click, let me click on the video. It comes here. Let me see the options I have here. So when I click on share, okay, share, there's an option like embed here, but I think that happens to any other video, right? There's an option like embed here. So if you that's when you click on the share option. So you click on the embed. So when you click on embed, already you can see that there's a link, there's an iframe HTML link to the right here, as you can see. So look at it. There are even options here. These are embed options. You know, you can show player controls. If you don't want to show player controls, you can disable this, right? You can disable that. So if you disable, you're going to copy a link that does not have player controls by default. Yeah. So, but this one has. So let's copy it. So copy. And okay, there's even a button here, copy. So you can copy it here, go to our code, and just drop it. So remember, you are not dropping it within any tag. You are not putting it in the video tag. You are not putting it in audio. Just within your body tag, you just drop it. You Control V and you drop it there. So even here you can edit. You can edit some things. This width is 560. This is default. Width is 560. Height is 315. So you can edit it and put your own width, right? You can put your own height. In fact, you can even change the source. You know, it has a link here. You can change the source and put maybe another video. This title, YouTube video player, frame border, and all of that. Autoplay, can you see? Has autoplay. Let me see. And all of that. Picture in picture, PIP. Okay. So let's see what Let's see what happens to our code. So let's reload. So you can see, I know you must have been seeing stuff like this on people's website, and maybe you're wondering, how does it happen? This is exactly how to do it, right? You're able to, so somebody can play, right? I can play, right? I can pause. I can go to YouTube. I can watch it on YouTube. Of course, you must have been seeing this on website. So just to show you that this is how this is achieved. So, but this is my own video. So let's just still get to YouTube and try any other video. Let me close this. Let me just click on any other video here. Okay, so maybe this. Let me just click on this. So this is actually not my video. It's just a random video on YouTube. So let's see. So there's still a share button, right? So you click on the share. Yeah, so you embed. There's the embed link here. So you click on it. So when you click on it, it's going to give you this code, this iframe code. So you're able to copy, right? So you can copy and go to your code. So this is my own video. So let's take it out, or what we can do, let's leave it. Let's come to audio. Yeah, so let's just say before audio, just so that we'll see them in two different places, Control V or Command V. Right, so let's see how that plays out on our website. So you can see this is the video, the random video that I just chose on YouTube. Then this is equally my own video that shows up here. Right. Okay, so you see that actually works. Somebody can click share, watch later, watch on YouTube, play directly on the website, and a whole lot. So this is the default from YouTube, 560. This default width from YouTube, 560. The default height is 315. So if you like, you can play with this. Maybe you want to make it, instead of 560, maybe you want to make it 760 or 860, depending on what you want. 860. Let's assume it's 860. So this is exactly how it will show. Of course, it's going to be longer, or it's going to be wider, right? You are playing with the width, so it will be wider. Let's say height, you say maybe 1,315, for example. So what's going to happen? So it's actually going to be long. Yeah, so as you would expect, right? This is just the video, but this looks awkward. So let's just, right. So we are just playing with the video just to see what happens, right? So yeah, so this is just how to embed video on YouTube. So like I said, many other websites that are video websites, I believe they would have an embed link, but just watch out for this iframe, right? So if you click on a video and you're able to see this iframe, then this is exactly the link you're actually going to use to embed a particular video. But I think we can try something. So let's try something. Let's come up with our own iframe link. Give it a width. Let's just give it same width. Say 860. So we give a height. Say maybe 400, for example. SRC. So let's go and look for an SRC somewhere. So let's just go here. Let me see. So let's take the link of this copy link address. So let's bring it in here. So we've brought in the link. What are the other things? Title. let's say we want to give our own title. So we can say two ducks swimming, two dogs swimming in water, right? So frame border, autoplay. So I can just put autoplay, autoplay. So I have autoplay. What else? Maybe picture in picture. Picture in picture. Okay, so what else? So I'm also going to have this, I will allow full screen. But before then, let me bring in this referral policy. So this referral policy is actually going to enable it to display, like there won't be any restriction to the display, right? So when we talk about cross origin, you are not going to have some browsers that would refuse to display this picture or display this video. So let's copy that referral policy. So strict origin when it is cross origin. So let's put it there. Then we can allow full screen. Then we stop there, and we have the second one. So let's see if that works. This is our own iframe. Okay, so let's see. Did that work? Let's reload. All right. So that worked, but what am I seeing here? Let me see. Interesting. Let me see. So I'm actually able to browse the websites from here, right? So I can click on videos. Okay. Let me see, accept cookies. Okay. Right. So somehow the video comes up using our own iframe link. So, but these things are just fun, right? You can play around. So you can actually search for videos here. So this is more like we are bringing a portion of that website here. And we can search for videos if we want. So this is actually how our own video plays out, our own iframe link. So let's see, can we play this video? Okay, so it actually works that we can play the video. We can post it. We can do picture in picture, remember? Okay, sorry, this is full screen. Let's see. I'm supposed to see a picture in picture. Okay, so yeah, so I think, but just to show you that iframe, right? This one is our own customized iframe link. So I can just comment it out if I want. Just comment it out. Okay, so just to show you how to embed. Then also, if you are working for a client and you want to embed map, I know you must have been seeing websites that have maps embedded. And for example, you want to embed map, maybe in the contact us page, right? You just see a map of some sort and you're thinking, how does this work? So let's say you have to first determine the location, so right? So you go to your browser and say Google Map. So you click on Google Map. Yeah, so it shows this up and it's asking you to search. So it depends on the location, right? So if you want to say, so let's just say, for example, Magodo. So let's use Magodo, Lagos. Magodo. So let's use this address or let's use this location. So for example, maybe this is where the client's business is in, right? Let's say it's in Magodo. So what you can do is there's a share button here. So you click on that share. So this is what pops up. So there's embed a map, as you can see. So you can click on that embed a map. You're still going to see an iframe, right? So it gives you an iframe link and you can copy it. Okay, so let's see the options here: small, medium, it actually depends. So, but you copy the HTML and come to your code. So normally, let's put it at the bottom. So this is just me putting it at the bottom. It's not, there's no rule that says it must be at the bottom. So you can see the options, the attributes that it has. It has SRC, it has width, it has height. If you're not comfortable with the width and height, of course, you can adjust. Style border is 0. You can increase the border if you like, or put in additional stylings if you like. Allow full screen. It's empty. Loading, lazy. So lazy load is that, okay, so just load according to how the user opens up the map. So lazy loading is really about it will start from the beginning and more like read and go down. Okay. So I can give more explanation around that lazy loading, but let me just let's see how it plays out on our website. So with this, we've been able to embed a map. So we can actually increase the width. If you are not okay with this width, you can increase it. So you can go to your code and say width. So you can say, let's say 100%, because I want you to take the full width, 100%. Okay, great. So it just takes the full width of its parent. So what's the parent for this iframe? The parent is the body. So if you go here, the parent, what's the parent? The parent is actually the body. So let me try to make these things to be okay. So the parent here is actually the body, right? It's this body tag that is up here on line 16. However, if we say in between this iframe, if we put a div, remember div acts like a container, don't forget. And that's actually going to make it a parent. So the div will become a parent to the iframe. So we can put it in that parent. And from there, we manipulate. So remember, I said 100%, right? That's what I said. So, but if in this div, I restrict the width. So let's say style, and I say width. Let's make the width like maybe 300 pixels. What's going to happen? So this map will be expected to reduce its width to the width of its parent, which is this div on line 136. So let's check that out. Okay. So that works. It reduces its width to the width of its parent, because in the parent, we have already defined the width to say, oh, you can't go more than 300 pixels. Okay. Just to show you. But if we say width, maybe we say width 100%, it means let this container of 136 take the full width of its own parent. So anytime you see percentage, just know that it is the percentage of its parents at every point in time. So what's the parent of this div at this line 136? Let me just ask, can anybody, let me pause here. What's the parent of this div? If the parent of this iframe is this div that is enclosing the iframe, what's now the parent of this div? I just need someone to respond.
The body.
The body.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any contrary view? Okay. So if there's no contrary view, okay, so let me ask. So what's the parent of the body?
HTML.
Okay. Great. Thanks. So HTML is actually the parent to the body, and of course, in this context, the parent of this div on line 136 is actually this body. But if I give another div again, right? If I decide to put another div again up here, right? And still come down here and say div again, div. So, sorry, I already have, okay, div. So if you click on this, okay, you see the corresponding closing. Okay. So what this means is that this iframe has a parent called div on line 136, and the div on line 136 has a parent on line 135. And this parent on line 135 has a parent called body. So it's just about layers, right? Anything that can act as a container, most commonly used is actually divs. Divs act as containers. Paragraph also act as containers. But for something like this, for enclosing something like this, an iframe, of course, you wouldn't want to use a paragraph because what is here is not paragraph. This is actually a map. So you want to use a div. Div is like a section or division or something. So div is more like the general container name, div, right? You most likely want to use a div instead of a P, instead of a UL, because this P represents paragraph, UL represents unordered list, even though it still acts like a container. OL is ordered list and it still acts like a container. So, but in the context of what we are doing, what is most appropriate is actually div, right? So, just to demonstrate, but let's take out this div here. So I also want to take out this div. I also want to take out this div. So let the iframe be on its own and have a width of 100%, right? Has a width of 100%. So let's check it out again. Of course, as you can see, it takes the full width of its parent. Like I said, its parent is body. So body is just everything within your browser window. So it just takes the full width and it is constrained to this height of 450. Okay, so that's embedding maps. Okay, so let me put it here to say, so let me comment to say embedding maps. So yeah, so we just embedded a map up there. I think we embedded, let me see. So let's just have some kind of explanation for our code so that anybody that gets across this code will just be able to understand. So this iframe is what? This is for a YouTube video. So you can just say embedding a YouTube video. Right. Okay. So so same thing here. Same thing here. Embedding a YouTube video. All right. So that works. I think we've been able to demonstrate that. Okay. Embedding YouTube videos and audio and video elements. All right. So next thing, which is going to be the last thing, we'll talk about forms. That'll be the last thing today that we'll talk about. So let's head on to, you see, gradually our website we are building our websites. Our code is increasing. So we are actually making progress. All right. So let's go to forms. Maybe before this map, right? Before the map, let's talk about forms. Let's talk about forms. Okay. So let's talk about forms, HTML forms. So you can say HTML forms. Okay. All right. So for HTML forms, we actually have a form tag or form elements, as you would call it, form elements. Then you just open it up. We are going to type a couple of things. So this form also still acts like a container. However, it is in the context of form, right? When you want to write a form. So inside the form, you most likely have a label. Let's just say we are coding a contact form. So HTML forms, let's just say in brackets. So let's say contact form, right? So we are working on a contact form. So label, first name, right? That is the label. Then inside this label, the label is going to take an attribute called for. So more like, what's this label for? The label is for first name. And please just note that in the value of this attribute, please make sure that you don't leave spacing. So there are a couple of ways you want to say first name. There are a couple of ways you can write it. You can decide to say F name if you like. It shows first name. You can decide to say F capital N A-M-E, first name. You can also decide to say first, you can type it in full, first capital N A-M-E, first name. So what this shows is JavaScript actually, okay, we're talking about JavaScript, so but at the end of the day, right, why I'm mentioning JavaScript is because at the end of the day, whatever is in this form is going to be submitted to a URL, right? So that URL is going to process the data that the user has imputed. So you most likely use camel case. So this having the first word all in small letters, then the beginning of a new word in capital letter is actually called camel casing, camel. So let me just add it here. So camel, right? So camel casing. So example, just say example. You have F capital N A-M-E. You have last, maybe for example, capital N A-M-E. You have allow. So if you can remember that iframe, when we were working on iframe, you can see allow full screen. Everything is in small letter. But you can see this option up, request full screen. This is actually the camel casing at work, because this is really about JavaScript, right? So, but since you're actually going to learn JavaScript at the end of the day, I would advise you just type the values of these attributes in camel casing so that you already get used to it. So maybe you can say something like, maybe allow full screen, for example. This is camel casing, full screen. So you see that they allow, everything is totally in small letters or lowercase. Then the new word or the next word is actually full screen. So you start with a capital letter. You capitalize the first letter of the new word that you are bringing together, because we don't want to give spaces. We don't want to give space. Since this thing is actually going to go to the back end, maybe I'm just going to show you, maybe I will show you what I mean so that you have better understanding. I will show you when we get to the browser. I will show it to you. So, but let's just go ahead. So we have label. Label for what? Label for first name. Then you actually have first name. You will see how it works. So this one is just a comment by the side. But let's go ahead. And after our label, let's have an input. So in input is self-closing, don't forget. So let me also put here as a comment to say that there are different types of inputs, like we have tell, we have email. I'm going to demonstrate all of this. We have text, we have password, we have URL, we have checkbox, we have radio, and a whole lot. Number, dates, and so on. There are quite many. So you can actually go to w3schools.com, like I said, as an external resource to learn more. But let's say inputs, and we want to describe the type. Let's start with type. So because this is first name, so it's actually going to be type. We even have type button. So type text. Although type text is the default, right? It's default. So, but it's important to still put it there that this is a text. Type text. So what else do we want to put there? So we want to put name. Name is an attribute. So name is still F name. Okay, so let's be consistent. First, capital NAME. That's our name. I'll still show you what these attributes, resolve to. So we have value. So value, we have first name. Then we have, okay. So let me hold on here for a while and just show you what we have so far, just before we continue. So remember that we have form, right? Form. And this form actually has its own attributes. We'll talk about the attributes of form in a bit, but let's at least see what we have at the moment. Form, then we have label, right? So you need to label each input. So the label has an attribute called for. So what's this label for? So the label is for first name. And the value, like what you're going to see on your browser, you see this first name showing. Then you close the label tag. Then after that, you have an input. Input is actually going to be by the side of it, which you will see. And we are saying what type of input? We are saying, oh, we need a text input. We want the user to be able to input a text. Name is actually when you are sending the details of what the user has inputted, right? You are sending it, you are saying that the key, of course, we'll go into Java, we'll do JavaScript. So, but at least just listen. The key is actually a key value pair. So the key is first name, while whatever is in this value attribute is actually going to be what to be the value. Okay, so let me try to explain. But I don't want to go into JavaScript just for this explanation for now. But just hold this in your memory at least. So when we go to JavaScript, I think you are going to appreciate this more. But at the moment, we are not submitting this form anywhere, right? But I just need you to see or to understand what it is. And when we go into JavaScript, you probably have more understanding. So, but at the moment, let's see what we have with this label and input. So where is our label? Okay, so just before this, our map. So can you see? Let me try to expand it a bit, or let me zoom in. Command plus zooms in. So I'm zooming in my browser, as you can see. So you can see first name. So where is this first name from? First name is from label, don't forget. So just to show you, let's change first to last, just to demonstrate that it's actually coming from the label. So you can see it has changed to last name, right? So just to show you that this is the label, why this is the input. So you can see that in this input, by default, it has first name as the value. So you can actually clean it. The user can clean it and put his own first name, right? The user can clean it and put his own first name. So, but there's something else that is interesting around this input. So if you go here and say placeholder, placeholder. So in this placeholder, you can say John, for example, John. So let's see. Okay. So what we see here is that the value is actually going to override. The value overrides the placeholder, because the placeholder is supposed to show within this input box, right? But what if we have the value to be an empty string? We make the value empty by default, and we have placeholder to be John. I want to just show you what this placeholder does. I know you must have been seeing it in many websites. So placeholder John. So can you see we have John? And if you begin to type, the John will just disappear. So you don't need to delete. You're not cleaning anything. But remember, for value, you have to clean. So this is placeholder. So what does placeholder do? Placeholder just gives the user like an idea of what to type. So you've said last name, but maybe the user does not still understand what last name means. And you say example. In fact, you can even, in your placeholder, you can even say example, John. You can say e.g., e.g, John. So you can say example, John, just to just help the user, right? Or maybe you want to write the example in full. Anyhow you want to do it, e.g., or you want to say example full, like full text, right? You want to say example, John, or something. So you are still going to see it. So when the user clicks here, so he's able to say maybe last name, he's able to type his last name, right? And user can delete. So when you delete, it goes back to placeholder. So this is what placeholder does. But if value exists, the value will override the placeholder. If you put a value by default here, if you put a value by default to say maybe value, you say John, or yeah, let's say John. You see John. John is going to override the placeholder. But if John is not your name, maybe you see a website like this that is already John. If John is not your name and you want to delete it, you can actually delete it and put in your own name. But if you have something in this value property or value attribute, it's actually going to show by default in the input text, in the input box. And it's going to override. Don't forget, the value text is going to override the placeholder. But if you have it empty, then what is going to show will just be the placeholder. So this button, okay, this is an input. So you can, I think you can, let me see, disable. Let me see. Yeah, so this, you can disable this. You can say disabled. So I don't know if you've seen websites where, for example, let's say you imputed your email, for example, And you see that website, it has an input box. But on that input box, you are just seeing your email, the email that you initially imputed to maybe create an account. And maybe it shows you like a profile page, or maybe your account section where you're able to edit your first name, put your profile picture. Most likely, many a times you will see that the email field, you will just see your email, but you'll not be able to change it in some applications or some websites. So this is how to achieve it. You just disable it. And by default, the user cannot put in anything there, right? As you can see, it's not clickable because it's disabled, right? So that's actually what happens if you want to disable it. But so in this case, I don't want to disable it because I'm creating a contact form. But just to show you, or what I can do is, so let me remove it for now. I will still bring it somewhere else, but I'm creating a contact form. So this place that is last name, let me change it back to first name because I'm creating a contact form. Or, okay, so I know what to do. Let's go down. So label. So you can do the next one. Maybe label for last name, right? So label for last name, right? Then you close it, and in between you say last name. Last name. Okay? So what happens? You are still going to see it. Come to the next one and put an input. So remember, is this input element that actually brings out that box where the user can fill in his input. So last name is still going to be the same. Type will be text, right? Then we're going to have name. Name equals to last name, right? So we're going to have value. We can leave our value empty for now. So let me remove the first value here, John. Let's leave it empty. Value is empty. So let's have placeholder. Placeholder. You can say example Doe, right? So John Doe. Yeah. So okay. So yeah. So you can make one required. Okay, let's make one required. Required. So when you say that it is required, it means that the user cannot submit this form without this field. It will not submit. If the user does not type in this field, it will not submit. So we cannot demonstrate it at the moment. Why we can't demonstrate it? Because we don't have a submit button. We need to have a submit button to be able to demonstrate it, to have something to click. So when we click on the submit, it's actually going to check, is there all the required fields, have they been filled? It will do that check. So let's go in and, okay, maybe we should just attach a button before we go ahead. Input. So there are two ways to attach a button. You can still follow the input pattern and say type. Remember, we saw type button. So you can say that the type is a button, right? Button. So, but saying type button is not sufficient. You need to give it a value so that you'll be able to see it. So value, you can say submit. Right. So let's just check it out. So we've brought in a button and we've said that the value is submit. So can you see? We actually have first name, last name, then we have a submit button. So let's just try to submit this form empty, nothing. Let's click on submit. I'm supposed to see, let me see, I'm clicking on submit. Okay. So I think on submit, we don't have an on submit. Okay, so just hold on, let me see. So let's say last name is Yang, for example, and I did not include first name, and I want to submit. Okay, so it's not submitting, and it's also not showing a message. So that's because we didn't direct the form to anywhere. So the form is supposed to actually have an on submit action. So the form has an action attribute. Action attribute is just where the form should go to. Like maybe you have a backend, right? This is where the backend comes from. These are some of the things, or these are some of the points where you see what we call interaction with the backend. So let's say you have maybe like a route that's at the back end though. You don't really need to bother yourself too much at this point about what I'm typing, since you're still trying to catch up to say, oh, backend, how does it work? So somebody must have already written the backend code that will receive this input, right? It's going to receive this input, but we don't have a backend. So I'm just giving more like just an example. So let's say there's a backend with these routes, action page .php. This is just an instance, right? And we have on submit, or we can have method. So in this method is the method just defines what HTTP method, right, that you are going to send this form. So we have different HTTP methods. We have post, we have get, we have put, and the rest. So let me see. Method, of course, you can see posts. Just to scroll here. Post is actually going to post. Get will more like want to display or bring back, and all of that. You may not have full understanding of these HTTP methods until maybe you want to do something around JavaScript. But just understand that HTML forms, you need to capture the data. Why do we have this? Is because whatever the user is inputting, you need to capture, you need to hold that data and send it somewhere, right? Either you're sending it to a database or you're using it for something, right? So there has to be a backend that will receive whatever the user is inputting and do something with it. So that's what brings the necessity of this. So we have the get. So I think get here. Then we have an on submit. So this on submit, right, is actually if you have a JavaScript function that this form is going to run when the user clicks submit. So that's what the on submit does. Maybe in the JavaScript function, in the JavaScript function, you can have this action to say, oh, it's going to this URL, and the method get. You can define it within the JavaScript function that is going to be called on submit, right, at the point where you submit. So if you have already written a JavaScript function, we've not started writing JavaScript, but just imagine that you have a JavaScript function called submit data, for example, right? So on submit, you're asking it to call the function submit data. So let's check it out. So what happened? Okay, so let's see. Yang. So I'm not having what I need. So let's bring in a button first and see. So, oh, okay. I think I know why. Okay. So type submit. Let's see. Submit. Right? Let's check it out. So if that's a submit, and we have Vinyang, and we don't fill this first one. Let's see. Oh, okay. So that's okay. Okay. So that's what was making it not to show up. All right. So, but what I want to do is this, it looks a bit clumsy because it's close to this map. So I will just move this form up so that it will give a little space, or instead of moving it up, I can just use BR. Remember that BR actually gives it line break. So let's bring in BR. So you see what BR does. So let's bring in BR. Bring in another BR. Bring another BR. So let's see what happens. Okay, so did you see that it created some level of space, right? So that's what the BR does. BR will just push it to push whatever is below it one space, more like it will push it down. Yeah. So if you put it up, if you put the BR up, it's actually going to push, it's going to give space between this our form and whatever is up. If we put it down, it's going to put a space and make whatever it is below it to start on a new line, right? So now that we have first name, example, and last name. So if we want this last name to fall on a new line using HTML. So after this input box that has example John as placeholder, what we just do is to add a BR. So when we add a BR, it's going to push this last name down. If you add a BR after example Doe, the input box here is going to push submit down. So let's do that. So let's say after this input required, we have a BR line break. So it takes this label last name to the next line. And let's say after the second input, we say BR. Okay, so let's see. All right, so I think it's almost time for us to end the class, but I'm almost done. So you can see, it just takes the whatever follows it to a new line, right? That's actually what BR does, is line break BR, right? So so if you don't fill in anything and you try to submit, it will tell you, please fill in this field. Why does this show? It's because of that required attribute. Look at it on line 142, right? 142. So with this required, you cannot. So if you don't fill in this field, you cannot submit your code. Or sorry, you cannot submit your form. You know, whosoever is filling this form cannot submit it. So the person has to fill in something, maybe anything. So if you fill in this first one and you don't fill in the second one, it will still submit because this second one is not required. So let's click on submit. Okay. So can we see something? Cannot get. Do you see /action page.php? This is where we sent it to. But there's this page, this route does not exist in the backend. We don't have any backend called /action page.php. So it said it cannot get, it cannot send this data to that endpoint, or it cannot send this data to that route. That's what it's telling you here, cannot get. So it can't find this. It doesn't know what action page.php is. I'm the one that just put it. So assuming that this is the link to our backend. So if we had a backend called this, it's actually going to send the data across. And if you check, you're going to see, if you check the URL up here, you are going to see something interesting. You see first name equals to LL. That's what we filled in, if you can remember. And last name equals to nothing. I didn't fill anything in the last name. So it has no value for the last name, right? You can see it here. So where did first name come from? This first name and last name, where are they from? They are from name, this name attributes here. This name attribute on line 142. This input has a name. Remember I said name. So you may not even know what that name does until you try to submit. So if you don't have this name attribute, your website or the browser will not be able to even have the, should I say, title or a key. It's actually called a key, right? It shouldn't even have the key to be able to now look for the value. So remember here, we said the value is empty by default. There's no value. So what that means is that whatever value the user inputs is what the code, is what your website, or the browser will now take as the value. Then to now use this as the key, right? The name, whatever is in name, it uses this at the key. Then whatever is in value or the value, either you put a default value here or a user inputs a value, is going to take that value and send it to the backend. So maybe you can still watch the video later again to have more understanding. But that's really what it is, and that's how it works. So I think we just stop here. So in our next class, sorry, just give me a moment. Let me stop. Just give me